Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fessich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
Angela Kelly Robeck, host of the Empowered Principal Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hey EduMagicians, it's Sam, and before we start into this episode, I want to share with you about an amazing resource. It's called the Educator Candidate Member Portal. AAEE provides you with resources such as virtual job fairs, a job board, interview tips and prep, resume building, webinars. You can even get a copy of the Job Search Handbook digitally. So head on over to aaee.org and create your free Educator Candidate Member account today. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I am so excited. I'm here with Brittany, Rincon, and we are doing a dual episode, kind of like those old school like CW shows where like they have like characters go on other shows, like, oh, I know that person from The Flash, or I know that person from some other show. So this is what we're doing today with Teacher Leader Podcast and EduMagic Podcast. We're coming together. We're combining our superpowers for new teachers. And before we get started, we're just going to do a quick intro of who we are so we can introduce ourselves to each other's audiences. So Brittany, would you mind going first?
Of course. As soon as you were saying that, I was like, oh, I loved crossover episodes.
Crossover episodes, yes.
Okay, so I'm Brittany Rincon. I am the host of the Teacher Leader Podcast. I also run the Teacher Leader Academy, and I do everything Teacher Leader. I'm the Teacher Leader Coach on Instagram. Like, that's my thing. I help teachers find their leadership voice, get in the leader mindset, and help them navigate the first steps of working with other teachers. And I have been doing that for a couple of years in my day job, as I like to say. And I recently have transferred that over into the online teacher space, which is a wonderful community of educators. And, again, in my day job, I am a mom to 3 boys. So my hands are full. And I teach 4th grade in New Jersey. And I also am married to a teacher. So it's just a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
Always education.
All education all the time.
All the time.
I hear you. I'm a mom too, to a 4-year-old daughter. And it takes a team for sure when when you are married to a teacher, for sure, all about education. All the time. So my name's Dr. Sam Fessich. I'm a professor at Grove City College. That's my day job, where I get to work with future educators all about ed tech and special ed. And I get to see them grow from their freshman year all the way up through their senior year, doing some student teaching and just seeing them shine bright during that experience. I'm the host of the EduMagic Podcast, which is specifically designed for our future aspiring educators and some of our new teachers who are just entering the field of education. And it's all about becoming an educator of excellence during their college career. So when they hit that first year, they're hitting that ground running and they're successful and full of encouragement, and they're challenged and they're supported. So that's a little bit about me, and my content out there is all geared towards and designed for those future educators. And I'm really excited to start our conversation tonight.
I know. I feel like our audiences are so aligned. Like, you're working with new teachers, and my audience is helping new teachers during their first few years as a mentor. And then, it's just so perfectly aligned, and I'm so excited for this episode.
I know,
Our
crossover episode. I love it. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, friends, we have 10 tips that we have identified to help new teachers. And I don't know, we'll think of some snazzy title for it later, but we have 10 tips, and we're just going to discuss those. We're just have conversation about them. So I'm going to start off with one, and my first one would have to be, for sure, self-care. Friends, we know that as new teachers, it is so easy to say yes to all the things. Yes, I will do that committee. Yes, I will chaperone that dance. Yes, I'll be in charge of that open house and Zoom or whatever it might be. yes to everything. And we got to make sure that we are setting those boundaries for ourselves. We're setting those boundaries so we can be with the ones that we love, with our family in the evening, and, spend time with them on the weekends, because education is a challenging career, but it is a worthwhile career. It truly, truly is. And if you let it, it will consume your life. So please, friends, set boundaries and take care of yourself, whether that means simply just going for a walk, taking an extra 5 minutes in the shower, getting into a hobby or an activity that you enjoy, listening to your favorite music, or just getting up and moving around between those endless Zoom meetings, right? So it's so important to take care of yourself in the moments of the day, and then also schedule some time in your calendar, wherever that might be, digital or paper, to make time for yourself, because you got to take care of you before you can take care of others. And I know sometimes we think about like self-care. Oh, I could take 10 minutes and I can read a chapter in a book, or I can grade these papers really quick. Oh, I think I'm going to grade these papers really quick. But by taking that time out, by taking that time to, read that chapter of that book that you're reading, you're actually investing in your students, because you're investing in yourself first. So you got to invest in yourself to take care of others. Yeah. So self-care is my number one thing. And I wish I learned that skill as a future teacher, as a new teacher, so I could have, just gotten better at it. Cause I still struggle with it today. Okay, did I make enough time for me today? And self-care sounds like it could be selfish, but it truly isn't. And if you're looking for some tips on self-care, there's an amazing, YouTuber named Kiana Cole called Kicking It with Key over on Instagram. Shout out to her. She always is doing positive affirmations, making sure we take care of ourselves, breathing exercises, relaxation tips. So recommend checking her out. She's all about that self-care.
I love how you said that it's something you wish you learned sooner, because I want all new teachers to know that it just doesn't magically happen after a couple of years in the classroom. You don't just figure out balance.
No,
You have to actively work towards it, because a happy teacher makes happy students.
Yes. So true. So true.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tip number 2 is to make a list of go-to people. And I think as a new teacher, you get very overwhelmed. You meet so many people with different titles, and it's hard to keep straight who is doing what and who to go to when you have a problem, and I think that especially in a digital space, you're not just casually bumping into people in the hallway.
Right.
If you need something, you have to I know for me, I have to go on the school's website and check out the directory and find a picture and a website and an email, because you don't remember who does what, especially if you're brand spanking new and you haven't really met everyone yet. So I would highly recommend making a list of people that you can go to with questions. So maybe the ed tech person, you have their name, their email, and what they can help you with. Or someone who could help you with lesson planning, or someone who could help you with maybe classroom management. Mm-hmm. Just having a list of go-to people. And that might not be easy to bring together right away, but it's definitely going to come in handy, especially now that we're a couple months, we're getting into school. Now we're starting to get to know people and what they are really good at, and kind of creating a list, a go-to list. I would love to throw it on one of those sticky notes on my Mac, who to go to for what. This person prefers to be emailed in the morning.
Yes.
This person, you need to email them in the middle of the night in order to hear back. Just having that list, it's so handy.
I love that. And documenting, how does this person like to be contacted? Email, text, other way to message this person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important. Having go-to people in your building, and then also having go-to people online that you can connect with too, I think is super important. So building that teacher community. We are a friendly bunch, like Sarah Thomas likes to share in her, she did an ISTE Ignite session about PLNs, and she said, we are a family over on Twitter and on Twitter. We are and I agree. We really are a friendly bunch over on Twitter and Instagram. Finding those teacher support system, whether it's through a Twitter chat or connecting with other like-minded educators, can really help you not feel isolated, not so alone, and really connected to that larger community.
It's like finding your squad. You got to find your squad.
Yes, I love that. Yes. Isn't there a cheerleading movie or something where they do I'm sure we could think of one. Anyway, yes, I love this. So I knew this would be fun.
So much fun.
So our third one is set boundaries. And I think this could look different across those different grade levels, but I know that there are certain communication apps where you can set up office hours and like, don't notify me after this certain time if someone has texted me on this app, like Remind does this. I know I let my students know, hey guys, I go to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So if you're going to text me, that is fine. Like on our Microsoft Teams, I have notifications turned off. So feel free to text me at any time, but you probably won't get a response till like 6 a.m. the next day. So just saying, if it's super important and if it's for an assignment, just know that you won't get a response, for a while. So ask a friend, especially if it's due the next day. But I like to let them know also, if they don't hear from you within 24 hours, something is terribly wrong on the weekday. Weekends is like 48 hours. Give me 48 hours, respond to your email, respond to your message. I'll get there. But give me like 24-hour response time. I will respond to you. But if you don't hear back from me, then something is wrong. Call somebody because,
Send help.
Send help. Yes, please. So I like setting up those boundaries, letting them know when I'm available, when I'm not, but also connecting with them during office hours, for now it's virtual office hours, but not just discussing academics, discussing, hey, how are you doing? Really? How are you doing? I want to know what's going on. How was practice or how was rehearsal or whatever it might be that's going on in your life? How's your roommate? How's your dog? How's your family? And connecting with our students, not only about those academics, but also about their personal life, because we do teach humans and we have to get to know them.
Definitely. Oh my goodness. I think boundaries are something that is so hard to set. And It's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? Because you're like, oh, I'll let this thing slide and I'll answer this email after hours. Never works. It never works. It just like starts the roll.
Yes, it starts to roll downhill.
Yes, it does. Oh my goodness. I totally agree with that. And it helps. It might seem hard at first, but I think after a while you really start to live within those boundaries in like a good way.
Yeah.
And you start to build your life outside. Like your personal life.
You have one.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
New teachers always forget that part.
Yes.
Okay. So our next tip, I can't remember what number we're on. I think it's 3?
4?
4? I think we're on tip number 4. Awesome. Okay. It is, don't be afraid to ask for help, which I think all new teachers sometimes are totally afraid to ask for help. It's like, who do I ask? What are they going to think of me if I'm asking this question? And I just it's one of those things, like everyone is sometimes afraid to ask for help, no matter if you've been in the teaching field for 10 years. Like being able to ask for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength because you are willing to go out and find the answer. And it's only going to make your students' lives better if you ask for help. And it's only going to make your job easier if you ask for help. Yeah, totally.
I love that one. Yeah, asking for help, not being afraid to ask questions, because guys, we're first-year teachers or student teachers. You are not perfect, and that is okay. You're not meant to be perfect yet. Teaching is something that you're always getting better at. You're never at perfect. You're never distinguished. You just visit there sometimes, guys, okay? We vacation in distinguished. We're usually at like the whatever is like below distinguished, like awesome. But remember that we're always learning, we're always growing. Ask those questions. And if you feel uncomfortable, like during a meeting, you can text it to somebody or something like that privately. Yeah, ask those questions.
Yeah, and I think that even for, anytime you take on a new role, it's brand new.
Yes.
So you have to be able to ask for help. Ask your questions, ask for someone to show you how to use a new tool or how to figure out a new role, because, it's not always going to feel like that first year, but every time you add on something new to your plate, it's like you're a first year teacher again.
Right. Exactly. You've never done it before. So of course we're going to have questions, and that's perfectly normal. The next one I want to talk about is number 5, getting to know your students. And I know that this is something we usually do like that first day of class or the first week of class, we get to know our students. But this is something we need to do throughout that semester, throughout those 9 weeks that we are with our learners, because this is something that we can always grow in. We can always get to know their talents, their strengths, their skills, their areas of interest. They're areas of need. We all have areas of need. We all have areas of strength. So how can we let those shine in our classroom spaces, whether virtual, hybrid, or face-to-face? We have to let those shine with our students. Getting to know them through simple tools, maybe just by doing polls at the beginning of class. Like, are you a cat person or are you a dog person? What's your favorite thing about fall? Mine's pumpkin spice lattes. What's yours?
The same.
Yeah, same. Flannels. So where was I? Oh yeah. And you can do like easy things like through Google Forms or Microsoft Forms. Send these out, those student interest surveys, but don't just let it stop with that survey. Actually read those responses and see what they have to say and try to find connections with the students in your class. I once had a colleague, Dr. Dennis McElroy, who used to teach at Graceland University, who every time his students introduce themselves, they stand up to their introduction, he would say how their introduction related to him. So what was a way he could relate to them? What was a way that they connected? So maybe they both played the guitar, or maybe they both sing in a band, or whatever it might be. So I think that is really cool how, as a professor, you're still getting to know your students no matter what age they are, because everyone needs to be seen, valued, heard, and appreciated.
Definitely. And I think, to add on to getting to know your students, it's also important for them to get to know you.
Yes. I feel like that should be like tip 5.5.
Subcategory.
Sub-question.
Yes, I totally agree. Okay, so tip number 6 is to create monthly checklists. And I know during that first year, it's super hectic. Everyone says it. It's like a blur. It goes by so fast. It's like it never happened. And then, you get to year 2 and you're like, I got this. I survived year 1. And then it's
T-shirt.
The same thing. Yes. I made it, or I rode this ride,
yes.
And then, it's year 2 and you're like, oh my God, I don't remember anything that happened last year because it was such a blur. And I think monthly checklists really can help. Not only year 2, but ongoing. And it's honestly just like a little list of what happens in that month. So like September is always the longest month because it's like back to school, right? It's like all of the things that you have to do, any important dates or big projects that happened in September. What goes on in October? What goes on in November? And kind of keeping a list for every month of the school year. What are some of the major things that will happen every single year that you have to kind of see coming, plan for? And it even just jogs your memory to be like, oh yeah, last year I did this. Let me pull that out from my records, my digital records, because now everything's online. But honestly, monthly checklists have saved my life. It's something that I use every single year. And I think it's great for even that first year where you're feeling stressed. Just make a list. What are you doing in September? What are you doing in October, November? And I'm sure it'll be very similar the next year. Even if we are, fully back in the classroom next year, there's going to be a lot of things that continue to happen, whether we're virtual or back in person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To build off of that monthly checklist, I think it's also important to reflect on the lessons that you're designing and developing, delivering to your students. Because if you go back and reteach with those lessons, you want to know what landed well with my students and what didn't go so hot. What would I change next time? Just making
scrap it.
Exactly. But don't hold on to it. Think it's going to be a keeper one day. No, if it doesn't work, throw it away. I love it. Scrap it. Try it again. Redesign something. Think through in quick moments of the day. Jot down on sticky notes or in that lesson plan tab or wherever you have your stuff. How did that lesson go? Did you run out of copies? Did you have did you group students? Did you not give enough time? Did you, was your pacing a little off? So think about those types of things in that lesson design, reflect upon them, document them, maybe give you the lessons that are amazing, denote them somehow. However you document your lesson planning. So whenever you're going back in September, October, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that kind of, let me look through my notes and see how that went. Yeah.
Definitely. I love those notes.
Yeah.
And I was doing a math lesson the other day and there was a big post-it that said, skip this lesson.
Don't repeat.
Yeah. I was like, good tip.
Thank you, past self. I tell my students all the time, do this now. Your future self will thank you. I promise. Yes. All right. My next tip is try something new with EdTech. Friends, you knew I would say that because I'm an EdTech professor. I got to shout out some EdTech tools. And try not to think of EdTech as one more thing. Think of it as a complement to your lesson. So how is it going to complement, engage, motivate your students in meaningful ways? Don't just throw it in. game because you have 5 minutes left in class. Don't just give them something sparkly and shiny like, oh, let's do an iPad game really quick. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about meaningful tech integration. So thinking about how can I use technology to highlight my students' strengths, to have everyone be responsible for their own learning and not take up too much of my teaching time so I don't have too much to, learn in advance. And I'm going to recommend two of my favorite tools to do this. One is Nearpod. I can take my presentations, PDFs, PowerPoints, pop them into Nearpod, throw in some formative assessment questions. So checks for understanding as I go. Great for virtual learning, hybrid, and of course, face-to-face. And then you can also put in virtual field trips in there. You can pull in those formative assessment pieces like the multiple choice, the fill in the blank, true, false questions. You can do websites, so send students to specific websites so they're not bebopping around the internet somewhere weird. You send them exactly where you want them to go. What else can we do within Nearpod? We can do 3D visuals. There's some really cool stuff you can do to engage students. And then my other tool suggestion is very similar, and it's called Pear Deck. What I like about Pear Deck, you can, again, throw your PowerPoint, your PDFs, whatever you're currently using, but they also have social and emotional check-ins that they structure throughout your lesson. So you can drop in prompts and they have them listed. Here's some stuff you might want to do at the beginning of your lesson. What do you remember about last class? How are you feeling today? How are you feeling about this topic? Putting that in during the lesson. Check for understanding, thumbs up, thumbs down, draw a picture. And then at the end, like exit tickets, KWLs, those types of things, multiple choice questions that you can add into your presentation. Again, checks for understanding, but also checking in with your students' emotional well-being as well.
Excellent. And I'm going to throw in one more.
Please do. I was hoping so.
Yes. Honestly, right now, I am all about Padlet.
Yay.
An oldie but a goodie, honestly. Yes. And you know what? I love Padlet because not only is it great for student engagement, they could record their video, their audio, they can add files, pictures, everything. I love it as a teacher tool, like just for me. Yeah, so my team and I use it. We use it to set our agendas on there for what we're working on in our meetings. We use it to plan our units. We put all of our resources on there. So when you're using Padlet and you upload a PDF or a photo, it actually shows you a snapshot. So you can see a bunch of pictures or PDFs at once.
Oh,
yeah.
I like
so
this.
we have been using this as a team. So I've got Padlets just for us to use as teachers. So we can click all the links that we have for our social studies unit, let's say. And then we're also using it for the kids. Like the kids have a digital writing center and they can see every single anchor chart all at once.
That's awesome. Yeah. I never thought
phenomenal.
of it like that. Oh, I like
I'm loving it. I'm like in love with Padlet right now. I'm all about it.
Shout out to Padlet. I think that's so cool. I never thought of it as a teaching tool like that. I always thought of it as a collaborative discussion, share your ideas, images, all that stuff, upvote, downvote. I think that'd be also pretty cool for IEP meetings. You can have all sorts of documents up there, show progress, show artifacts of work. That'd be really neat. I like that.
I'm still I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to learn so much more about Padlet this year.
Awesome.
All right. So our next tip is to find a mentor. Now, I know when you're a brand new teacher, a lot of the times you are assigned someone, which is great. And I mean, we've all been there. Sometimes it's an amazing relationship and sometimes it's just not so much, right? When I say find a mentor, I mean, find someone that you gravitate toward, like more of like a self-selected mentor. And, find someone who inspires you or is doing something that you want to do or has a role or a job that you want in the future as well. And, talk to them, say I'm really inspired by everything that you're doing. Like, would you mind being my mentor? And I'm sure most of the time a teacher is going to say yes.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to ask for that, one-on-one hand-holding and support because you need it as a new teacher. And when you find the right mentor, everything does change. Mm-hmm. And again, sometimes you have one that's provided by the school and sometimes you don't. And you kind of have to go at it on your own. And, again, kind of going back to asking for help, you might not want to find a mentor. It might not feel like something that's feasible, You could also find a mentor online. Like you said, there's so many teachers that are phenomenal in the online space who, if you reach out, 9 times out of 10 will write you back, will give you advice, will hop on a call with you, and really be that person that you go to when you need someone to pick you up.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you mentioned that, reaching out to people online. They really will help you out. Teachers want to raise up that next generation of educators. They want to help support you, from future teacher, student teacher, first year teacher. Yeah, they're there to help and support you and help guide you along the way, because your first year is tough. Everybody goes through it. It does go by like a blur, but you don't have to go it alone. For sure. And there's so many like groups out there too, like on Facebook, there's new teacher groups, new teacher support groups. There's one by Melinda Thomas called New Teachers Connect. It's a Facebook group where new teachers can come in, get ideas, get support, get strategies. And it's just a great place to connect with other educators too. So yeah, my next one is pit stops. And friends, this kind of relates to, so the first year, you're going to have days that your face hurts from smiling so much, and you're going to have days where you are in tears. And both are perfectly normal in your first year of teaching, because you're going to have some days where you are just on fire for education and you are so excited to be in that classroom. You're going to have days like questioning, did I make the right decision here? I don't know about you, Brittany, but I had like my first day of teaching. I was a special education teacher, and I remember having like an out-of-body experience. It's so weird. It's like I was standing in my classroom. All of my students are in the room. There's like 8 students and 5 adults, because most of them had personal care aides, and there was a classroom assistant as well. And I remember standing there looking around like, all right, so what are we going to do now? Where's the teacher? I'm like, wait a minute, it's me. It was like a brief second. It was the weirdest feeling I've ever had. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Then and everything you've learned, it like just kind of comes back to you. You're like, okay, let's do this. You just jump right in. But what I mean by pit stops are, you're going to have times in your teaching career where you feel like, I don't know, did I choose the right decision? You're going to have sad days. You're going to have disappointments. But remember that these are just pit stops along the journey. We don't stay there. We don't vacation on pit stops. We have to go for the greater vacation. We're just hanging out there for a little bit. We have to inspire ourselves, motivate ourselves to keep going and keep pushing through, keep persevering, because you never know what's going to be on the other side of that tunnel, what's going to be on the other side of that mountain. So it's so important that whenever you are in those days or those periods where it just doesn't seem like anything's going right, no matter what lesson you teach or anything, just know that you will get through this. So find that mentor, ask those questions, set those boundaries, try some self-care, and you will get through this. And reach out to people, because we want to help.
Always. We definitely want to help. I will help anyone. Like, come hang out with me.
Yeah, come hang out.
Yeah. Tell me what's going on. I'm here to listen. Oh my God. It's so funny that you said that. Like, being in like a new teacher is like, when is the adult going to show up?
I'm 22. Where's the adults?
Well, I know I mentioned this in like my very first like episode, but I was an alternative route teacher. So I did not go to school for education. I have a degree in anthropology, which is fun. And I was in a classroom and I had no teacher training whatsoever. It was like on the spot. And I remember having that exact same feeling. Is someone going to save me? Like,
hello?
Make sure. It's like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here.
It's such a weird feeling.
So weird. It's like, who trusts me with these children?
I know, right? Put me in charge here. We need to have a discussion.
Oh my goodness. Well, the very, very last tip number 10, which is my favorite because it is work smarter, not harder. This is literally the background of my laptop.
I love this.
And when I mean work smarter, not harder, I mean, when we're a new teacher, we think for some reason that we have to like recreate and reinvent the wheel. And we have to be innovative and we have to use what we learned in school. And we have to go on IG and like check out all the new tech features that everyone's using and try to use them. And we want to make sure that we are not reinventing the wheel, that we are using best practices around us, and that we are being as efficient as possible, right? How quickly can we and efficiently get through certain things, especially when they're not, I want to say like just not as important, right? Do you really want to spend 3 hours making that worksheet look pretty? No.
Yeah.
But, as far as like student engagement or getting to know your students, like that's something worth really investing your time, and then kind of doing all the other things with the same amount of like quality and attention, but just not going that extra step when it's not necessary, really using the people around you, because most likely they'll tell you like, oh no, that's not even worth it. Like,
ask that mentor, ask those questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask, it's like, I've got 10 minutes. How could I make the most out of it? Because we're teachers, right? We have 10 minutes. It's like, do I eat? Do I go to the bathroom? So yeah, that one's definitely up there.
Yeah, I like that. Work smarter, not harder. Be efficient with your time. Don't recreate the wheel if you don't have to, because if something's already made, double check, make sure it's all good. Make sure like using all those best practices, make sure grammar, punctuation, all that stuff is correct, because you don't want to hand out anything weird to your students. And yeah, just double check it, make sure it's good to go, because maybe somebody created something better than what you could ever create. You never know. So where can we go to find some of these awesome resources?
Yeah, so I have some really great digital tools, and it's definitely one of those like work smarter, not harder. Like I put together this Google template. It's a great book. It's a checklist. It automatically scores things. It color codes things, and all of that is available in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. So my store is actually just my name, Brittany Rincon. And if you go there, you'll find some really cool digital resources through Google and a couple other things. So yeah, just Brittany Rincon on TPT.
Awesome. Nice.
There's my plug.
Love it. Love it. All right. So as we end up our conversation today, Brittany, where can people find and connect with you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram. I am at Teacher Leader Coach, and that's one of the best places to find me. I post tips. I have podcasts as well. It is the Teacher Leader Podcast, and I interview teachers who are doing amazing things in their school and really rocking the leadership game. And I also am, I have a website, and that is BrittanyRincon.com.
Sensing a theme here.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So friends, if you're subscribed to this podcast, head on over to the Teacher Leaders Podcast. Teacher Leader Podcast, and smash that subscribe button, because you're going to get inspired by the stories and the teachers that Brittany interviews as well.
Mm-hmm. And where can everyone find you, Dr. Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me over on Instagram or Twitter. My handle is at @sfesich, SFECICH. There I post information about the podcast, webinars coming up, just some great motivation for our student teachers and future teachers out there, shining a light on the amazing work that they're doing each and every day. As they're going through their EdTPAs or they're passing their practice exams, way to go, you rock. And just shining a light on the awesome stuff that they're doing. I have a site as well, sfesich.com. There you can find more information about the podcast, my books, and my blog as well. So I encourage you guys to check that out.
Yay. Okay, well, this was so much fun.
Love the crossover. Totally got to do it again.
Yes, this was like a hit in my book.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
And there you have it, EduMagicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more EduMagic, check out sfesich.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram at sfesich. Until next time, you have the EduMagic within you.